Hello and welcome to Module 6. We're getting through it very quickly this semester, and by now you will have put together your group projects. And be patient with everyone in the group. Everyone has their own lives and schedules, but make sure that all group members are participating. If there are issues, you can come to me about that, and I'll help facilitate a better working group environment. So we are at Module 6, that's Welfare, Social Security, and Education Policy. Go to the overview here. So as usual, the video I'll be creating will be put right here. And we have the same sequence of projects for the week. So review part 1, and that's associated with Chapter 9, Welfare and Social Security. And then review part 2, and that's associated with Education Policy. And that's Chapter 10. You have discussion 6, which is PBS Frontline Separate and Unequal. Normal discussion pattern. Make sure to post on the Thursday night, or actually it's Thanksgiving, so you don't have to post on Thursday. Nothing's due on Thursday. You can post on Friday, and then you can post to a fellow student by Sunday. So it's extended due to the holiday. And you have Group Project 2 Policy Alternatives Worksheet, and I will go over that with you in a second. And then the reading quiz on chapters 9 and 10, the usual stuff. So we see here, there's a few videos to watch. Make sure that you do. Helps explain the issues that are covered in the text and in the module. And some graphs, some of which are in the text, some of which are not. We go down here. This video, you do have to click on the link. It's a little fussy with the embedding. Go to the next, and you have my lecture on education, public education, K-12. That's my research background. So you have that. And then you have another video on college costs, which we all know about. Separate and unequal, again, we have an embedding issue. So you just click on the link, and then you have the question. And now we get to your policy alternatives worksheet. So this is your second worksheet. And I am going to stop sharing this screen and pull up the policy alternatives worksheet example. Like last week, you have the basic form here on top, and that's just to use as a template. But I give you an example, the homeless example, so you see exactly what I'm looking for. Stop this share. Okay. Hopefully you can see that. And if you can't, on some of these videos are having difficulty, let me know. I apologize. So let's make this a little bigger. So we have societal issue. This is the policy alternatives worksheet, your second group worksheet. And that's from the previous worksheet. You may have changed the name for this, but I want it to be the same topic. All of your assignments are just kind of progressed together and should be on the same issue. Now, one thing that I really want you to do is check out your policy worksheet from the previous week, and I hope to get that to you by Monday. And make sure to see my comments and to heed my comments on what you should do for your second, moving forward with your group project. Sometimes students don't look and they make the same mistake the second time and then the third time, and it's irritating as an instructor. But I also want to make sure that you're on the right path. So as we see, we have societal issue from previous worksheet, chronic homelessness in Imperial County, California. And then you have the first question. And this is about the group members each going and finding one source of information on chronic homelessness, on a policy addressing chronic homelessness. And it can be from anywhere. It doesn't have to be restricted, to, let's say you're talking about Imperial County or San Diego County or LA County, whatever you've chosen. It can be from anywhere, the US, the world, what have you. So bring those together. Each of you go out and get a source. And then as a group, you're going to choose your top 3 sources. You can choose more if you'd like. That's just more work for the assignment. But in this case, the group, you meet, you choose your top 3 sources, and we say, okay, policy alternative 1 that we have the example for is There Is a Better Way program. That's the video we all watched. So that breaks down to what? And we're looking at what services are provided in this program. Services are your outputs. You know, what are the inputs being used to create outputs? The outputs are the services which we want to categorize based on instruments of public policy. And this again is the list that we went over earlier in the module. Make sure you're looking at that, which is mentioned in the earlier module, as well as Exam 1 study guide. So in this case, you have a day worker program with a van, which could be a market mechanism because of the subsidies paying homeless people to work rather than panhandle. So there's 2 instruments there, a subsidy and a market mechanism to encourage the behavior. That's the market mechanism. And government management because the driver works for the city. Number 2, we have intake and referral program for healthcare and housing services. So that's the second service provided, and that's information, education, and research, as well as government management. Those are city or county employees. And it's a public-private partnership. Why? Because they're sending people for services to different entities, whether they're public or private, to deal with healthcare, et cetera, or housing. 3, the job skills training program. So you have information, education, and research, and it's also a public-private partnership. I'm assuming I didn't get too into the weeds on that example, but let's assume it is because they're having people go to training centers that maybe are operated by a university or a private training company. The city doesn't provide that service. And finally, short-term and long-term housing program. And this is information, education, and research. And it could be government management if you're creating your own housing center, or it could be government management and public-private partnerships. In this case, it was public-private partnership because they were working with a third party to actually provide the housing. So there's the link. What I want from you is policy alternative 1 source website link. You don't have to worry about APA citation for this. Again, these are succinct, to the point, these worksheets. It's about, you know, substance, not literary prose and flowery language. I just want to have the link so I can just go check it quickly. If I'm getting citations that are proper, it takes a bit longer to find the sources. So policy alternative 2, and this is ending chronic homelessness. And there's the link for there. It's from Penn. And this is different. It's permanent supported housing. There's government management, information, education, research, et cetera, et cetera. And then policy alternative 3, the Third Door Coalition. And it's a little bit different. You have the permanent supportive housing is the main element of that. And your policy alternative 3 website link, et cetera. So question 2 is important. That's when, as a group, you're going to choose the policy solution. And you're going to create it. You can create your own policy solution, or you can do something similar to one of the 3 policy solutions that you're presenting. Or it can be a mix, a combination of those 3. So be creative, but keep it simple, to the point, and make sure it's measurable. If something is very vague or doesn't have a lot of substance or elements that you can create a metric for, or metric or data exists, try to avoid that, because that's going to be a difficult program for the next assignment, the performance measurement piece. So just, that's a heads up there. So in this case, we call it the Chronic Homeless Outreach Project, CHOP. You know, that's just, I created out of nothing. And it's similar to policy alternative 1. So it's similar to There's a Better Way program in Albuquerque. So in this case, we have 4 different programs. Those are the components, you know, which are the the outputs, you know, the services provided, implemented by Imperial County, coordinating with other area organizations, in this case, cities, nonprofits, public safety, state organizations, and funded by local government, county, participating cities, and of course you have your private-public partnerships, federal, with state and federal grant support. So how are you going to pay for it? You can deduce it from that. So policy alternative components, you have the day worker program, the shelter program, the health services program, job skills and placement. So similar to the There's a Better Way. You get to this question: what entity or level of government would be responsible for implementing the policy alternative, and how would it be paid for? I don't need exact figures on how much it's going to cost or exactly which fund it's going to come from. This is just to get an idea that you're thinking of something that realistically could be implemented based on your knowledge of government. And I know, we're undergraduate students, so it's limited at this point. Don't worry about that. But in this case, we say Imperial County would coordinate and implement the policy, working with partnerships with other local government entities, nonprofit organizations, private organizations, state government agencies, and federal government agencies. Funding would be a mix of general county funds, state and federal grants, and private donations. So I just want to know that your head's in the right space. You know where the money would be coming from. And this is kind of a general thing that usually for most comprehensive county programs, you're going to have some mix of funding similar to this. Doesn't have to be related to chronic homelessness. So what instruments of public policy would be utilized? And I've put the list again, just for reference here. And make sure to read it carefully. Some of you were using taxing and spending. And I just want to reiterate, for the purposes of these assignments, taxing and spending is only used if you're creating a tax to specifically fund that program that's exclusive to that. Or you're creating some sort of funding stream, a bond, a ballot measure, additional sales tax, all of these things. The best example, of course, is the FICA taxes. They go to Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. They were created to fund those programs. So in that case, it is taxing and spending. If it's just general tax dollars, you don't put it down for that. Otherwise, everything would be considered taxing and spending. You put that for every item. So just FYI. So we've broken down government management, information, education, research, public-private partnership, P3 initiatives, and we describe it just briefly. So for government management, where would this tool be used? So the day worker program, the shelter, health services, job skills and placement. In each one, there'd be a component that's government management. Information, education, and research, significant element for all programs, and then we list the programs again. Public-private partnership, this is more specific, would be implemented for the shelter and health services programs, and then with WHO area nonprofit organizations, healthcare providers, etc. And you could have a third P3 with the training, which is most likely. And market mechanisms, and then you have the chronically homeless incentivized to work rather than panhandle through day worker program. I didn't put subsidies here, but you could throw that in as well, because that's the actual payment to the person. Equity challenges. So just think generally, one paragraph, don't get too into the weeds. What are the challenges to equity? And what might be some negative externalities associated with the policy alternative? So in this case, you say, okay, it's equitable in that all Imperial County chronically homeless are welcome to take part in the program. Efforts would be made to ensure each of the program components are accessible to participants experiencing mental or physical disabilities. So just so you address it, I don't need specifics necessarily. Substance abuse issues, PTSD, that these things are recognized and will be accommodated. A possible negative externality would be chronically homeless, let's say from large metropolitan areas, San Diego, LA, Phoenix, say, hey, Imperial County has this, they hear of a program that's great, and so we could start drawing in a lot more people than the county has the capacity to handle. This doesn't always happen. I've seen it happen in Michigan, in one city, in Ann Arbor, because they had a great system, and it actually brought lots of people from Metro Detroit. And then the capacity issue, well, where Washington County is a smaller county compared to the larger counties in Metro Detroit, just can't afford to pay for homeless from other counties to come in as well. So those are difficulties. So I say you need a solution to that problem. Some problems are too big, but just address it. That this is going to be a challenge. Challenges, again, to political feasibility, social acceptability, administrative capacity, liberty, legality. Just keep it real simple. It can be a sentence or two. I just want you to think about it. And question 5, how might you ensure adequate transparency? Again, real simple. I just want you to address it. Think about it. And if you do, which a lot of groups do, say, hey, you're going to do question 3, I'm doing question 4, this or that. Make sure everyone reviews each other's work. It's always good to get eyeballs on everything and can make some constructive, comments or add to or edit. I like to have lots of people reading documents I'm preparing just to, I miss things, make a mistake. It's important. So that is that assignment. Oops. And then you have the reading quiz, the same as every week. So if you have any issues or questions, feel free to send me an email and I will respond as quickly as I can. And good luck on your next policy worksheet. Remember, keep it simple, focused, measurable. And I will see you all next week.